I did not know love or friendship until I came here and found my crew of Black women.
These kind of relationships that get disturbed when we don't take the time to know what it is to sing, to know how to get close to the mic again, or to get some singing doesn't make it happen, or maybe.
Welcome.
We back, man. Back at it.
Back like trash.
Trash.
We have a guest today.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
Clean beauty ambassador, mother,
Nice.
business owner,
Yep. Tractor driver.
tractor driver,
Professional tractor driver.
track star,
Yep. Yep.
healer of self.
Yep.
Just a great person, at least from what I've been able to see so far.
Solid individual.
Thank you.
Hanna McCall,
Welcome.
In the flesh.
thank you for being here.
Thank you for asking me to be here.
I was a little concerned that us reaching out would be like taken for trying to slide in somebody's DMs or something. So
That's a tricky thing to do.
it's a
bro.
real tricky thing as fly brothers reaching out to a fly sister
Yep. And
You
DM,
know,
it's
in the DMs, but
you never know how it's gonna land.
It's true.
it landed.
Yeah.
I mean, good for you. I work in social media, so I kind of live in DMs for a different reason.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you how much times do you get DMs and you like, whoa, wait a minute? Yeah, a lot.
So we got a ways to go.
If you had a number like 80%.
I'll just say if Instagram could you have like your primary messages, your general, if they could just add a category of, trash to keep it on thing and just put all those in there, that'd be cool. But I mean, sugar daddies are active
Nice.
in DMs.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
shout out to the sugar daddy.
shout out sugar daddies, and they must be successful though.
Yeah,
Normally you switch game up if it ain't working.
That's what I'm saying. I really think, obviously they're biting. I've considered it, especially the ones that are only dinner, just conversations.
Well, that's part of the game. So is there? So I'm always curious about this. So there is the ones that come out and be like, hey, mama, how you doing? There's them, right? But then there's also, hey, I would like to work with you. Under the guys who get over there, he got on a tank top and a house robe and a pipe.
We call that slow walking, Hannah.
What is it?
Slow
Slow
walking.
walking.
And that is
When you a man who has ulterior motives.
Yeah. Sells you on working or
Yeah,
doing
friendship.
something for you. Photography, that's a good one. It's always the photographer.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
want to collaborate.
Okay. I didn't know
Yeah.
there was a word.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Slow walk.
That's the thing. We just gave away the game. Sorry.
Yeah, my bad.
No, I mean I'm that happens. Obviously, I'm aware. I just didn't know I could call it something.
Yeah, call it slow walking.
Yeah.
So when you
Call it no.
you call it no.
Call it nah. No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, please. I remember when my grandmother
pass.
told me you say yes, please, and no, please, and I was like, but Granny, that don't match. You're supposed to say, because she wanted to say yes, please, and then you were supposed to say please after no, and I got a whooping that day.
I kind of want to say no, please now, though.
Yeah. Please no. Oh yeah.
Emphasizes the no.
No, please.
Yeah. Social media is a wild place.
Let's do it. So, TuneTheFork started November 11th, 11/11/2020
Okay.
is when the entity known as TuneTheFork started.
Okay.
Started getting into social media. And your account was one of the very first accounts that I remember being recommended through the algorithm and actually looking on it and saying to myself, wow, she's saying things that I would say, that I want to say, and didn't really know how to do that at the time because the whole process of just social media presenting this idea of self-help, accountability, whatever all of that transparency, whatever the term is for it, you were doing it. And I remember saying like, wow. And I reached out to you. I was like, wow, I just got recommended this. I really like what you're saying and how you're saying it. It aligns. And you were like, oh, thank you so much for the compliment. And then that was it. Mm-hmm. And this was early 2021, I think, somewhere around there, after I had finally gotten on and opened the accounts and stuff. And so, thank you for existing and just, yeah.
I don't think anybody's ever said something like that.
and showing up.
Thank you.
Every day. Because I feel like, not only do I feel like you're talking to people, but I feel like you're talking to yourself.
Absolutely.
Too.
Yep.
Yeah,
and I get that.
That's the thing, though. That's because a lot of people that talk to people, but you know, you immediately hear the difference and feel the difference when you see someone that's talking to themselves too.
There's a lot more authenticity, I feel.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
tell us. I know where I want to go, but I want to see what you're going to start with.
Okay.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Or a lot of it, whatever you feel sharing.
I mean, on the vein of what you're saying with my social media, that was born out of a place of necessity and learning the term inner child.
Okay.
Because, and that's like, if for me to tell you about Hanna, I have to tell you that I'm constantly in a relationship with my inner child. That's how I operate in the world. That's how I operate kind of in everything I do, because of my upbringing and being the only and not having, my mother obviously loves me with every fiber of her being, but as a white woman married to a white man, there was a lot of things emotionally and conversationally she could not give me. Mm-hmm. So it took me, I mean, I will be 38 next week, but it took me about 37 years to look at myself and be like, man, can I swear?
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, you are fucking worthy. Like, your value is high. Like, roll with that. But that came from that place of like always looking at myself and my thoughts and being like, what does little Hanna need right now? Mm-hmm. So then I can operate from that space.
Yeah, that's wild, because I just recently, last year, I think since we started doing this, started to think about that inner child and started to like recognize what that inner child has gone through and how it surfaces in a lot of things that kind of go through the day. And I started to, like, when I hear like songs, because I don't know if I told you that, like love songs, right? I kind of direct it to my inner child, and talk about how much I love him and how great you are. And when you sing love song, you talk about how someone is, how great and lovely, and you know what I'm saying? And that sort of makes me feel better in those weird times. So that's deep.
I'm glad you said that, because I think we misconstrue what love looks like in our lives.
Right.
So when we give ourselves that love, I think we can receive it in the myriad of ways that it is around us.
Yeah.
It's like, why does a love song just have to be about a significant other?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
not true. That's the biggest sources of love in my life are generally not coming from a significant other.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try to sing to my inner child.
Try. It's gonna sound wild at first, but then you can be like, oh, this makes sense.
Where are you from?
Iowa. I can never say that with conviction because I don't ever want to go back.
Iowa's a state for all 7 of the listeners.
Unfortunately,
It's a state in the Midwest.
It's an important state when it comes to election season.
I guess it is, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I still don't understand why, but I'm pretty sure you know.
Electoral college is racist.
Electoral college and racism. That's why
I mean, yeah.
In a nutshell.
right. That's
We could
it.
probably write a paper about it, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
So you are from Iowa, and your mother is white, and your stepfather, he's basically your father.
Yep, absolutely. That's my dad.
He's white.
Yep, a white dairy farmer from Wisconsin.
A white dairy farmer from Wisconsin.
And he married a woman who had a
black child. And I was fiery. Like,
how old were you when you?
I was 5. I think I just turned 6, actually. They got married in June, so I just turned 6. I didn't like him.
What do you think it was?
So my mom lived with my aunt before, and my aunt has a biracial child as well. We're like a year and some change apart. So we grew up as brother and sister those first 5 years of my life. Mm-hmm. I was removed from the only safe place I had and the only reflection of me. Mm-hmm. And then they had, they had their own kids, and I was just like, oh, bet. So nobody's gonna look like me, nobody's gonna care about my feelings, and nobody knew what to do with my big feelings.
Right.
And it's growth is beautiful in everybody, because my father and I have this conversation now, because he's like, I did it wrong. He's like, you were hard, so I came hard right back at you. Mm-hmm. I'm like, but me, still to this day, you're gonna come at me hard, like, I'm gonna be like, that's real cute. You're going to lose.
Wow.
So you didn't at the time recognize, of course, you were 5, no way you recognized what you were actually feeling.
I didn't have words for it.
Right.
But I definitely knew what it was. And it's not that, there's a bunch of nuances with having, whether it's through adoption or whatever way you form your family, for being white and having a child of a different color, there's a lot of nuances that parents don't and probably can't think about. So, there was just a lot of gaslighting my feelings and emotions when I did try to conceptualize them and my feelings. It was like, why would you feel like that? Like, no, blah, 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 blah. Like, this is how it is. We treat you that way because you're this way. So then, like, it was my fault all of a sudden. So, I get in trouble for this, but I get really bothered when white people adopt black children.
Woo. Okay.
Sorry. Woo. Donna, take us off YouTube. That's it. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in, everybody.
I can take it.
I struggle with that as well. Not just necessarily black, white, any.
Yeah.
It's a struggle for that kid, I think. And I don't know a single child that has that type of relationship, either through adoption or that hasn't. And every kid has issues, but I feel like there's something relating to identity and having a place and belonging that there seems to always be a void no matter what.
Yeah, and I struggle with it too. But I also understand the well intentions, right, of doing it, but sometimes it's the misinformation and believing that it doesn't matter. Like
That's a good
the
point.
fact that you're black.
The love is enough.
The love, right? I love you, and that's all that matters. That you're not, equipped enough to say, I need to make sure that she or he is around people and around things that they can identify with, because that's who they are.
Representation.
Exactly.
That's why it's so important.
Exactly. Especially formative years, 5, 6, 7, 8,
Specifically in formative years. Like the show This Is Us, the writers, like whoever they are, they're genius, because they really brought to life. Are y'all familiar with the show?
Is that the CNN thing? Is it on CNN?
NBC.
No,
NBC. Okay.
So it's 3 triplets. There was 2 triplets. One died, and then this black baby ended up at the hospital. And since they had just lost their 3rd child, they just added him. So it was 2 white kids and a black kid growing up as triplets. In his adulthood, they did this scene where he found a support group for people of color who were raised in white households. And when I tell you, I sat there and was like, wait, is this real? Because if I could find somebody that gets, it's that belonging, what you said.
Yep.
If I could find somebody that I could just go to and say something about my mom that to you guys might feel like nothing, but to them, they're gonna be like, oh, I understand exactly where that cut was. Yeah. But he also had to have conversations with his siblings about where they were fucking up, specifically around, it's so sad, there's too many murders that I don't even remember who had passed, but they spoke on it, and he was like, y'all don't understand. Like, you're sad, and then you just go to bed.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not what happens in my reality,
Right.
you know? So it was such important writing, and I told my family, I'm like, watch this twice.
Yeah.
Sit with whatever uncomfortable feeling comes up in you. And like, my sister, she's this tiny little pale woman, but she's a G. She's like, I'll sit with it. Cool.
Oh, wow.
Where did
Oh.
I fuck up? She's 9 years younger than me.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
I mean, so I feel confident when I say things like that because I do know what work looks like from a white ally. So I can confidently say what I say because I know what it looks like on the other side.
Let me ask you, this is going to sound real fucking silly,
Okay.
but I can't. Did you know you were black?
Absolutely. So, absolutely. The environment I was raised in would not let me forget. And they told me, I think I was 5 years old the first time I was called the N-word. So, I think I was 6th grade the first time I was spit in my face. And, you know, so like there was no option for me to be anything else.
So outside of your cousin, who you grew up with, that was really pretty much the only
There was
black
one
people
other
around.
girl. She had been adopted by a family friend. We were the same age. We were in the same grade. That it was me and her, but I had very different experiences from both of them. I think because my reaction to that slap in the face of like, remember you're different was cool, then I'm going to own this. I didn't quite know what I was doing, but I literally just stood firm in my blackness, and they just had different paths. Like, for example, she went back with her kids to the hometown we're from, I think 2 years ago, and her daughters were like dancing in the street at some little street dance fair or whatever, and she heard somebody walk by and say, ugh, where did they come from? And so she reached out to me. She's like, can you believe this? And I was like, sit down, girl, because yeah, but I'm shocked that this is shocking to you.
Yeah.
You know, so like it's just different experiences, but it's survival. Like I can't judge anybody in those environments because you do what you got to do.
That's crazy.
How did that affect you growing up, like not being reflected in anything around you? What did you gravitate towards without having anything reflecting back?
I mean, two things. One, that's why I said I realized my worth and value at 37 years old. And two, it was a mess because love was a concept I didn't get at all because I didn't see it. It wasn't reflected. There was nobody that was looking at me. Like I was not seen. I was a problem, a fetish, or I was just a respectable black woman. I made people feel comfortable, the token.
Been a black friend. I got a black friend.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that. And there is an element, I don't know what it's like other places, but I know in Iowa and the Midwest specifically, there is this element of obsession with black men coming from white women that really leaves black women disregarded in those spaces.
That's so.
Tell me, say that again.
So there's an obsession that white women have with black men, and it leaves black women disregarded, but like on two fronts. Like we're being disregarded by our brothers, and we're being disregarded by these women who really don't even, from their core, love these men. It's just a status or an excitement, but I can't tell you the number of times I've had white women say to my face, I'm blacker than you just because they're dating a dude that's black.
Get the fuck out of here.
I've heard that.
I literally had a friend, I'm so sorry, well, she was my friend. Before I say this, I'm gonna tell a story, but I was gonna apologize, but I'm not, because I have any friend outside of my friend who's biracial that I had in high school and college, my friendships expired over race. I said that with my chest. It's true. Every single friendship expired over race. But back to the funny thing. My friend was in the bathroom and I heard her say to this black woman that she was blacker than her. And I was just like, she was white. And I was just like, what has happened? So I come out the stall and I was like, what did you just say to her? And I looked at the girl and she was just like, you fucking heard her. I was like, yep. And I was just looking at her. I won't say her name, but I was like, boo, I'm gonna be right here to help you fix your face, but she's gonna beat your ass. And I cannot physically tell her not to. And she did. Slammed her in the mirror, slammed her in the dryer. The girl just walked out, but I'm like, you deserve that. Like, what are you doing? You're white all day, every day.
What do you think it is that gave her the
Audacity,
to do that?
whiteness.
Well,
Was it 'cause
Whiteness
so
and audacity are
that's
synonymous.
that's Iowa, right? But it happens here too.
Does it?
If you go outside of the insulated bubble of DC and go into these Virginia, Maryland suburbs, and you go, because we're DJs, so we see a lot of like nightlife and a lot of
Interesting.
and a lot of it happens, and I look at it and I see that black women are sort of pushed aside by black dudes in favor of, now I can't say every subject all the time, but in favor of these white women who seem to think that acting like what they perceive a black woman acts like
That.
puts them in a position to identify, we talked about this before, as
yeah.
a black woman. Like, you walk around, you dress like a black woman. You kind of do what you perceive the stereotypical is, right? And it happens a lot. And they are, and a lot of times in those spaces that I see it, black women don't understand what's happening. They really don't get it. But me looking at it from a different lens, it's a weird dynamic, man.
Have you ever dated white dudes before?
I was married to a white man. Can you guys guess why that ended?
Hold on.
Talk about that.
That
Okay,
motherfucking.
that was.
I would.
Yeah, that caught me off guard.
First of all, I environmentally, I was in Iowa, so like, there was no black man to
Oh, so
choose.
you couldn't have just found the only black dude? You could.
He probably would have
Oh,
been
you-
like, he probably would have looked like the dude in the tan suit from Get Out. Like, we wouldn't have.
Excuse me, sister, can you count that white girl for me?
Get her attention. please.
Right.
Okay, so
You
you.
with that white girl? So
I feel like my mind just got
I
blown.
know. So going into this relationship with your ex-husband, how were you, like, what space were you in terms of your reality?
Familiarity was the reason why I even pretended that it was gonna work, I think.
But you knew deep down.
Yeah, and like, we've had that conversation, that we really kind of just got married because it was going to be the best opportunity for both of us to rise. Kind of a business decision. But we were married for a month and some change before Trayvon was murdered. And the game changed because of where I grew up. Also, like, I really didn't fully understand all of the violence that was happening on the other side of hate, because it didn't happen around me because there was no black people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my access was different. And I just remember turning to everyone I knew with this anger and fear because I have a black child, and everybody thought I was ridiculous. Everybody thought I was ridiculous. So I turned to, like, Twitter. I always say this, Twitter saved my life. Because Black Twitter hit the streets hard when that happened. And then after Mike was murdered, I worked with Campaign Zero. Like, I was in the weeds of the movement, and everybody around me, they was calling me a terrorist. My ex-husband's father literally called me a terrorist. I showed up at Easter one time with just a shirt that had the number 7 on it, and Colin Kaepernick's face was in the number 7. And his brother-in-law was across the table from me shoved the table and got up because he couldn't stand to look at me in my shirt. So like it was
Just a football player.
I mean, come on, yo, why are you so mad at my football shirt? But and it was a thing that like, and he's still working on this to this day. He's a great father in the capacity that he sees a father being, but you're the father of a black child, and like I'm constantly, and it's exhausting, but I constantly have to be like, watch for this. If Isaiah's shoulders shift a certain way, just remove him from the situation. Don't talk to nobody, don't fight nobody. Don't you dare say something angrily toward any white person that's giving my son grief. Just remove him from the situation, because anytime you open your mouth, you're putting him in harm's way.
So what, so did around the time when you said, you know, Trayvon, was his response to that sort of different than how you felt about it? Or were you guys sort of aligned?
He didn't have a response.
So I would think that
Complacency and silence, quite literally to me, is way more violent than you saying something bad to my face.
I would think that if you married, well,
You would think, but they can't. And let me not say that because I'm really trying not to make excuses for whiteness anymore. I can empathize with the not knowing for somebody, right? That does not apply to racism at all. I feel like all of us, our eyes have been open for too long. There's no reason for you not to at least default to what a black person is saying to you if you are not black. But like there was always because people came after me because I was talking. I was loud about this stuff and loud about asking the people that said they cared about me to step up and be, you know, like Rihanna said the one time, like pull up, like where y'all at? And I would get from him, he would be like, I don't think that's what they meant. Like, can we, like, let's just see if they meant something else. What the fuck? No. I'm telling you, no, they didn't. They meant what they said. Like, they're asking questions and poking holes because they're pissed that I'm no longer the token. They're like, oh, this bitch is not following the rules. Like,
What?
I got some more questions, but I
But
thought
no,
you looked like you want to say something.
I'm processing, dude.
Okay.
I'm literally processing. So, please.
So he knew you were black when he married you, right? I
but
mean,
again,
it was no.
like I said, with the token thing, I think everyone around me, I was a safe black.
But I mean,
But yeah, obviously he knew I was black.
here's the thing that always sort of moves me in a weird way. Even if you took like in all that's happened, if you took black out of it, right? And these people and children were just murdered, and black is out. The conversation is still the same. Like it's not. Blackness has nothing to do with the tragedy and the crime that happened. I mean, it's a reason, I guess, right? But it's still a crime of murdering someone, an innocent person that you had no right to take their life. I mean, that's the humanity of the conversation. Why, if I'm married to I don't know. If he's married to you, then he should understand that as the baseline for any conversation that's stacked on top of it, and seeing your response to it. If he's, I don't know, man. I'm gonna leave it.
But she knew he was white too.
Yep, and I didn't conceptualize, I didn't know what whiteness really was.
Okay.
Because again, that was like, my family was all white. But
That line.
Because I think that's the challenge or a big part of it. There's so much ambiguity around it, around these identifications, and I think it's fine if you lived in a bubble, because everybody would just be ambiguous about shit.
Iowa.
But we've got to go outside of that.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And like there's this whole other world that says what shit is and responds to you in a certain way. And so when you don't have a clear framework of that, stepping outside of that, you've got to develop that in real time. And I think what I'm hearing you say is like the last 37 years has been an attempt to kind of frame that and understand how you want to show up, who you say you're going to be, and what you're going to stand for, because that wasn't necessarily clear
At all, yeah.
growing up.
Absolutely. Like I think it's really difficult for a child that doesn't look like their parents to form a solid sense of identity. That's just kind of like the law of nature. Like, how can you possibly find yourself without a reflection of yourself?
And I think that vice versa to that too. Like, it's hard for them
absolutely.
to sort of give you that because they can't.
Yep.
Because reality is they don't see a reflection of themselves either. So they're kind of just guessing how to,
It's like what
how to
you
make this
said.
happen.
Looking at these murders for a lot of white folks, they don't feel an attachment because they don't look like them.
Yeah.
And my mom has said to me after I moved my child, she's like, should I have moved you? Absolutely the fuck yes, you should have. That was your job.
But the love was there. I mean, they cared about you, but they couldn't.
See, but love and care are so very, very, very different.
But they couldn't, like a lot of our parents, they couldn't really give us what we needed in a way because they didn't really know, right?
Correct. However, as this generation, and even the conversation we were having prior about dropping our kids off at school, like, we can say that in our validation of forgiveness and saying y'all did the best that you could and I appreciate you.
Right.
And in the same vein say, but I'm actually gonna go into the weeds and deal with what you refused to, so I don't have to give my children what y'all gave me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we can say that all day, but as someone who's doing the work to change things,
Yep.
because like my son said to me one day, like, they tell you to raise these children that can emotionally communicate, and it sounds great and pretty until they check you.
Yeah.
He was in trouble for a real reason. That's weird for both of us because he's a real good kid, and I say trouble lightly too. But I was speaking to him and he wasn't hearing me, so I did raise my voice a little bit. I don't yell in my house, that's a hard rule. But he was like, do you think the way you're speaking to me makes me want to respond to you and have this conversation?
You know what? I've had that happen to me too.
And you just have to be like, let me check myself and go sit down.
And they were absolutely right.
Right, you're like, you're right. But if we were to operate from the place that our parents operated from, like, oh my good, who the fuck you talking
Somebody
to?
get choked to sleep.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
How do you say that your parents poured love into you and you have everything you needed, yet there's this huge
They
gap?
did not pour love into me.
They did not.
No. I was the forgotten child.
Okay, so do you equate, we're gonna talk about love languages in a minute. Do you equate time with love?
Explain that.
So when I said poured love, I think I'm meaning them giving you a recognition of them giving you what you know they were capable of giving.
So my source of love in childhood was largely my grandfather, and then it was my aunt. My parents they're very different now, but they were unwilling to love me the same way they loved my brother and sister. I knew that as a kid. I know that as an adult, and that's why we've had conversations about it as 3 adults now. But
Why do you think they did? Why do you think they did that?
I mean, my perception is because There is so much that sits with stereotypes that are, whose foundation is racism. Realistically speaking, outside of the man who is my biological father, I was my mother's first exposure to Black people, like an everyday exposure. I was her first. My stepdad, I was definitely his first. So there was just an unwillingness to meet me where I was as an emotional child, an emotional adult. Like, that didn't change. Like, jokes on them. They thought I was gonna grow out of it. But like I did, again, I can't say that they actually did the best that they did the best that they could, but I can't say that they gave me everything they could, because I know they were unwilling to have the conversations, because as a child I tried. Like, I would try to write these letters describing how I feel and how much I love my parents. But as an adult, I realized that I was just saying those things because I knew that's what you were supposed to feel for your parents. We didn't have that type of emotional relationship, so I was just trying to make it, be a thing. Like, people always say, daughters and their mothers are best friends. I have had to sit in therapy for a lot of hours to realize that is not going to be my life, and I have to find my way with my mom.
Yeah. So, a couple things. So, and what you're saying is incredible. So do you think that they saw you, because I think that, parents of one generation dealing with a child of sort of another generation, and how that child functions, whether it's emotional or empathic or receptive, whatever it is, have a hard time making a connection. Sometimes that can spiral into resentment and other things. The racial element, do you think that they saw you as Black first and then their daughter? Or do you think that they understood that their daughter, who is Black, is not dealing well with the fact that she's the only Black person in this white experience, and they didn't know how to navigate that? That was a lot.
That's a good question.
So I do feel fortunate that I know the duality of both of those things.
Right.
Because the latter of what you said is who my parents are right now.
Right.
I had a conversation with my mom over Thanksgiving where I was just saying something like maybe about I couldn't go back into corporate culture because I don't have a code switch left in me. And she said something to the sense of like, yeah, I can't imagine what that was like for you. And we just had a normal conversation. And I remember inside of myself being like, holy shit, we got there.
You felt seen.
We got there. But as a child, I don't think they have the verbiage or the vulnerability to admit that they saw me as Black first. But like my own sister, I think she was 16 years old. We were shopping for a prom dress. And she admitted I terrified her. And my best friend was with me at the time.
And she's 9 years younger.
9 years younger. My best friend was with me. She's also mixed, but she's a lighter complexion. I was like, Cameron, you gotta stay with Nora right now because I need a second, because all of a sudden, everything I felt as a child was validated. Because this little girl, she didn't wake up thinking her big sister who did her hair for every special event, gave her candy, took her places. She didn't just wake up and be like, oh, my sister is scary. That was given to her somewhere. Mm-hmm. And if I would have been treated, I guess maybe like her in our family, I don't think she ever would have looked at me with fear.
That's heavy.
You talking about this makes, and thank you so much, by the way, for sharing. I feel like you've got a really good relationship with your story. Mm-hmm.
And that's hard, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
But sorry.
No, it's cool. And so much of what you have chosen to spend your time doing now, I feel it's like you took, like life threw you shit and you were like, okay, I'm about to take this shit up, I'm about to package it up, and I'm about to serve all of this shit out. And in the process of doing that, I'm gonna heal me. I'm gonna heal other people. I'm gonna be a better mom. And that is such an inspiring place to be and to even walk through and visit in my head, because I can't imagine having that experience and then getting to a point to where I have the audacity when I listen to your shit, when you use that word on your podcast, it landed as though this is who you are. You have the audacity to persevere.
I mean, I feel like there's no other choice. But I also feel like there is no, I don't operate from a place of looking for this end destination. Like, there is not going to be a day where I'm like, whew, I'm healed.
Done. That's done.
that was fun.
Yeah.
So, like, we have to look at the journey as the good stuff, the juice. So, like, yeah, it's a combination of that. Life is going to be what you make it. And I fully understand now. Like, this is literally something I just woke up with in my spirit about a week ago. I understand that I exist and my life experiences have been what they are because it is my purpose to talk about it and let other people be seen, or just be like, yo, it's okay that, like, you're hurting or dealing with something messy that you can't conceptualize, because we all are.
Yeah.
We're just not always willing to be vulnerable.
Yep.
To be like, hey, here I
Yep.
am.
Yep.
We say that all the time.
All the motherfucking time. And don't beat yourself up for feeling bad.
Yeah.
Like, own it. Like, be in it, experience it.
Yep.
If you gonna cry, motherfucker, just ball out.
I mean, I love to cry though, so.
I cried. I like to cry too, by the way.
too.
But I haven't cried over no sad shit in a long time.
That's good.
I only cried. I don't even really think I've had anything to be sad about. I don't even really think I've had anything to be sad about. Yeah, I have had something to be sad. But it wouldn't really feel sad. It was a happy cry.
I mean, and it's also like, don't judge your emotions.
Yeah.
See what I mean when I said, like, the algorithm got it right.
That's wild.
The algorithm got
Listen,
it right.
that was a few years ago.
Yeah.
Instagram streets are different.
Yeah.
That's
They
true.
do not be giving
That's
me
true.
people I really want to
Right.
follow.
So, how do you? I'm surprised. This is the only thing I can think of that I would do. So I'm gonna say what I would do, and then you're gonna. I would be like, fuck all the motherfuckers in Iowa. I wouldn't want to talk to near one of them. I'd call them all motherfucking racist, which is what I would say in my heart. Mama, I don't give a fuck if you mad at me. This is some bullshit. Pop, I appreciate the tractor training,
Right.
but I'm out this motherfucker.
I ain't never coming back.
How have you been able to manage these relationships, feeling the way that you feel about all of this shit?
I didn't. And me moving my child to be around more diversity was intentional, and I didn't realize what it was going to do for me. I needed that too. And like, I will gas up Black women all day, every day, but I did not know love or friendship until I came here and found my crew of Black women. And
Wow.
I cannot ever, like, it will make me cry if I talk about it too long, but I can never put into words the power of that love and community. Like, I immediately knew what I was missing my whole life, and I immediately realized what I had just given my child.
Your tribe.
Immediately.
Like, I had the very first girl I met when I moved here. I had a panic attack at this place we were out, and I just bounced because I went to go deal with it. And she's like, okay, girl, call me tomorrow. And I was like, I'm sorry, that's it? Like, you still want to hang out? Okay, that's weird. And just like continuous bounce back. Like, yeah, no, go ahead, fall down.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not gonna let you like fall.
Yeah, yeah.
But realizing that's what love is and that's what support is, different from care. When I found that, I also had to deal with the fact that I had become the over communicator and over lover for my entire family. Like, I grew up with 13 cousins and 5 aunts and uncles. We all lived together and we were thick as thieves. For the people that I genuinely care about and I could see were kind of sort of making incremental steps to be better as a white person in this world, I had to understand that not everybody's journey is the same, and you have no right to dictate somebody's space and pace.
Yeah.
And there are other people that used to be my cousins. I have a godson that no longer exists. He's alive, but he's just racist. So my other godson gets double gifts for birthdays and Christmas.
Hey.
I'm not shy about that. I have, anybody in my family and like my mom will straight up tell you, she'll give me news about some family members. I'm like, I don't give a fuck because they're racist. What do I care about that for? I don't give a fuck about them having a racist ass baby either. Like,
A racist baby.
The baby's racist. If 2 racists have a baby, that's a racist baby. It's a racist baby.
Racist off the top.
Off the top. If your mom and daddy are racist, if your mother's racist,
right,
and your daddy's racist,
right,
you are. This is in the Bible.
Baby. I mean, think about it. That baby.
You are a racist baby.
Already hearing stuff.
I agree. I mean, I just never heard of that, but that's a wild.
They might not grow up to be a racist, but they're gonna have to have serious internal conversations about how mom and dad were dead ass wrong.
That's clean.
So I don't think I got the answer. So I'm trying to.
How do I do it?
How did you shift?
Coming out here and realizing what love was, realizing what it looked like from somebody else. I realized I had to cut some people off hard. I had to remove myself as a pillar of the family.
Okay.
But then you also sort of soften you kind of decided to meet them where they are.
Yeah.
Instead of.
Because I was comfortable now.
Exactly. Instead of going through the extra shit to try to make them love you, and being, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I feel like you just like.
Yeah, I get it.
But that's the thing. That's also why where I am right now and single, and I say that with conviction. Like I'm not judging myself. But
hey
what
man,
you
stay out of DMs, man.
No, but what you just said, I've always thought I have to make you love me.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And just being just wasn't enough.
Right.
Oh no, never. But where was that in my life?
And that's wild that you've experienced. I've always felt like, and I guess for different reasons, that someone loving you requires you to always be. You're never enough. You're always sort of doing.
Yeah.
Until you realize I'm enough, man. If they don't, then that's on them.
Messy can be lovable.
And that right. And your tribe help you see that. And I'm gonna say this, man. I don't know how people take this. I'm always out, not always out, working clubs, and there's nothing like a group of black women because they move in a way and they have a rhythm and a spirit and an energy that's so unlike any other group, right? And it's
a sisterhood.
It's magic.
I like to watch it.
Me too. I sit there and watch them.
Yeah.
It's magical, and they don't really even realize what they're giving. I mean, it's like it's something about them, man, and they love. I mean, granted, they messy and shitty just like everybody else a lot of times. Humans, but there's something about how they love, older ones, how they love on it.
Yes. Absolutely. That's why I love being around here and the festival culture of this area because you get to interact with so many different types and ages of black women. But there's always that it's like a zing when you talk to somebody like them. It's just, yeah.
you have gotten to an awesome point in your life, I feel like, based on what you're saying. And you're not saying that it's perfect, but you're saying that it's perfect. Kind of like at the same
About to
time.
pop off.
Yeah.
Like,
If for a biracial girl or boy in a situation, like, is there any type of like advice you could give, or for them to, who are feeling like they don't understand what the other side looks like or what the path is?
that is the book I'm working on. And it's been written for a year. My struggle is understanding the hurt it is going to cause everyone that helped collectively raise me.
Change the names.
No, it's not their stories. It's just my story. It's going to hurt when they realize, there's two things. It's going to hurt when they realize how broken I was and nobody came to get me. And two, I know there's going to be an element of like, I'm not going to have to, but there's going to be a request that I defend my truth. And I'm not going to do that.
Sounds great. Say it. Well,
But yeah, and that's because I know I'm not the only one. And there's not a biracial woman I meet that doesn't get what I'm saying. So, and there's nothing out there for us because there's the other side where we're really just supposed to be quiet because we have the best of both worlds and they ain't shit to complain about.
At least that's
Why?
the story.
that's the narrative.
Yeah. So, but yeah, because I wrote a little children's book too, real simple, and it's just When I See Me, and it's just this little girl seeing herself in like the post office man, like the doctor, like a teacher. I've never had a black teacher. Like I never had a black garbage man. Like nobody black checked out my groceries until I moved here.
So-
like.
So black check out my groceries. So
I'm just saying simple
Where
things.
you going? I ain't met a nigga at my grocery store yet.
Right.
They all white and Hispaniola.
Where y'all shop?
I'm fucking with you. I'm kidding. That was so bad.
So when you went to college, you so even running track, you
Well, so my freshman year, there was a senior leaving, so there was two black women on the track team. I know that's bogus.
that's the wildest thing I ever heard in my life.
And like my best friend to this day, my coach, knew how important it was and was like, "Hey, got another mixed girl coming on the team. Like, you excited?" I'm like, "Oh, cool." So we go to like to the orientation meeting. I go in, and I'm like, "Fuck, she didn't come." And then I saw her at practice, and I saw her hair, and I'm like, "Oh shit, it's you!" And I immediately had to deal with the fact that I just kind of participated in dismissing her as a black woman because I didn't see it at first. And that was new for me because I'm in the middle too, but
Yeah.
she was a different variation of the middle. And I've always been very protective of her, and I've apologized to her. Like, yo, I'm real sorry it took your hair for me to realize you were a black woman.
Do you see a middle? Like
No,
is that- okay.
I do not.
Is there one though?
We try to force there to be one, I think.
And what is the middle? If I can't tell, if you got to tell me.
No. I'm thinking the middle is even being
Yeah, I think the middle is just mixed.
biracial. The biracial
Mixed race,
tag.
yeah.
If I was biracial, you would never know.
See,
Exactly.
that's something I learned when I moved to DC too. Is like all these men and women that I was friends with, and like, oh, both of my parents are black. I'm like, but you're lighter than me.
Because if all we doing is looking at paint jobs, bro, like,
Exactly.
But that's really what's going on.
Yeah.
because my mother, black father, black mama,
Yeah.
is lighter than her.
Yeah. And it's a lot of that. I mean, shit, we light skinned people are here because of
So the middle.
slavery-
So I
slavery
thought
and raping.
We know the story.
Exactly.
I thought the middle was if you have to tell me.
No, I don't think
No,
so.
that seems. I mean, the middle is the middle, right? But then you have a spectrum in the middle,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? But the middle is the biracial
Yeah, I would say
you
that.
speak to. Okay. And then there's a spectrum in the middle of a little more leaning a little more white, and then leaning a little more black. Because I know some really kind of brown people that are biracial.
If you said, hey, like I wouldn't
unless you told me.
I wouldn't know you was cut up.
Like the first 6 months living here, nobody knew.
Right.
And I kind of didn't want to like tell anybody after a while. I was like, oh, y'all really just accepted me?
I know you get Spanish.
Yeah. Oh. Anytime I visit the Dominican,
Yeah.
folks just start talking to me. I'm like, thank you.
Maybe Ethiopian?
Always Ethiopian. There's not an Uber driver on these streets that doesn't tell me about their daughter named Hanna.
Oh, that's a Ethiopian name? I mean, a common one? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
So, are you sure? Yes.
Are you sure? Yeah.
Clean beauty. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about that.
So that came into play because I had a mentor that was getting into the clean beauty space, and I was just like, what is this? Like, is this real? What's going on? And she sent me something that said 75% of the personal care products marketed to Black women specifically contain ingredients that are harmful to our health. And I was like, 75%, so all of them? Like, just say all of them.
Basically, might as well.
And the worst ones are like hair products. I'm like, but it's the most violent, quiet act, I think. And I started a blog about it, realized quickly from business owners in that space already, because Black women have been making clean products. They just didn't call them clean. They just, whether it was a sourcing thing or whatever, it's just a lot easier to get a big old chunk of shea butter than, you know, to be a chemist in a lab.
Yeah.
So explain what clean product is.
Oh, yeah. So like clean basically is like not containing any ingredients that are carcinogenic, cause cancer, mess with your hormones, endocrine disruptors, things like that. So clean.
And it's wild that is even a thing. It shouldn't be anything.
It's like food.
Right. Yeah.
Like food.
Facts.
And yes, exactly like food, because European standards are so different than the US. Like the EU I think they had banned like 1,300 ingredients for the longest time. We banned 23. They just added like 1,400 more. Meanwhile, the United States is like, okay. But like, that just means companies are making the products cleaner in other countries.
Yeah.
And then they just dump everything over here.
Yeah.
But I started a blog, realized a lot of these women that were making products already were so gracious. I was in this lane and educating people that I just had a mentor that was like, get your 501c3 and become a nonprofit. And I was like, I can just do that? And so I did.
So because I always thought, in listening to some of the interviews that you've been participated in and stuff, and what it is, I always looked at beauty as just like some superficial kind of thing that women just spent too much time and money on. But listening to you describe the purpose of it, and it seems to, it makes complete, there's a health aspect to it. Like it's generational type shit that's...
And also like your skin is an organ. Like it's no different than somebody having a conversation with a friend like, yo, you need to detox your liver. You've been going too hard on the alcohol lately. Like, but have you ever like purposefully picked up a fruit or vegetable or put something on your skin for the health of it?
Yeah.
No, nobody tells you to do that. Like our skin is out here doing the most, and we're just like, you're just doing your job though, so why I need to do that?
Who gives a shit? Like as long as, are you dry? Okay, then just...
Some folks do that, like...
Some Vaseline on it.
No, don't do that, please. Petroleum, straight petroleum.
That's why I just in the word that it's on the can. It's like, it says petroleum. But we all got a big jug of.
So you've got the clean beauty piece. From a financial sustainability perspective, what all do you have your hands in?
Too much. Too much because I'm still trying to find my sweet spot.
Okay.
So the clean beauty piece, what do you actually do? Do you make products? Do you just
No.
sell products?
So we're education forward. So we educate, via the internet and blogs, but we also we go in and talk to groups of young women. Like we were just at Howard with her campus, their group, and we went in and talked to the girls, just told them like, here's this information, like, right. And I'm firm on there's no judgment, but like, it's not fair for you to be in the dark.
Right.
So here, have this power of knowledge, but these babies, man, they're hungry and they're interested.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I was floored. Me and one of my board members were there, and we both were like, damn, we got to do more of this, because they were like asking questions and what can we do? Can we make our own products? Like, what's going on? Like, it was just so powerful to see that. But this younger generation really gives a whole lot of fucks about themselves and each other.
Yeah.
And that's very apparent, I think, in having those types of conversations.
So you got that piece of it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, your question.
Sorry.
So I do that. I hustle wine on the side because I drink it, so why not?
Out your trunk? You selling wine out your trunk?
I mean, not quite, but my main vein is I do social media and YouTube I'm the managing vein of our YouTube production and social media for a company that I literally just started volunteering with 5 years ago because I was interested in her mission. She came out the gate and she worked in HR and DEI for a long time, and she just decided there was a lane for a Black woman to teach corporations the right way to approach diversity recruiting, with the aim of it just being fucking recruiting. Mm-hmm. And the other side of it is she's a career coach for historically underrepresented folks. So there's the duality there that she created, and when I moved here and left the corporate space, getting the energy of this area, getting the energy of Black people, I went to an interview that it was an offer that everybody in my life really was angry at me for turning down. But I remember walking out of the interview, seeing the boardroom of just only white people around the table, and I was like, I don't have it in my spirit anymore. Like, I'm too broken to come back to this. So I'm gonna have to find it on the other side. So I volunteered with her. I waited, till she grew, could become a paid position. I've continued to grow with her. So I do that. I've done social media for other folks. I help with another DEI thing. They are focused on inclusion at the playground. Start with the babies.
What does DEI stand for?
Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Oh.
So I don't know. I do whatever, as long as it speaks to my spirit.
Nice.
My goal, though, is to literally just make money off of Hanna and my essence. Like, I want to go talk to people. I want this book to just take me on all the vacations I want to go on. You know what I mean? I don't want to ever. I will budget and hustle to avoid doing anything that doesn't elevate my spirit.
I love that.
Yeah.
But I feel like I'm teaching my kid that too.
Yeah. He sees it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't think anything. I'm like, I'm gonna shut the door. I have a podcast interview. He's like, all right. So I have to wait to make food? Yes. Like, but he understands, like, not the hustle culture, because I also believe, like, that's just so unhealthy. Yeah. Like, sit your ass down and rest, please.
Yeah.
You don't always have to have your, like, I don't know about y'all, but like, when I watch a TV show, I'm like, please put your phone down. Like, don't you want to watch this? And I'll rewind it 10 times?
Yeah,
like, what are we doing?
What have you? How has the responsibility of raising a Black boy? How's that shifted your relationship to your Blackness?
He introduced me to my Blackness on a level that I could conceptualize it. And I say that because when he was little, like maybe 3, I used to straighten my hair every Thursday. I could tell you it's because it was easier to deal with on the weekend, or I wouldn't have to like travel with products. I could make whatever excuse in the book, but really it was, and I still struggle with this belief to this day, that I'm more accepted and prettier with straight hair. I still think that.
You still do?
Straighten my hair. I'm like, oh girl, you look good. I'm like, no, you looked good yesterday too, though. But he taught me that because he was 3 and he recognized that I had that pattern, and he was just like, why did you do that? And
He asked you that?
Yeah, I had to face that reality because he was a kid that, in his mind, he was just a locked human. He started asking for locks at 3. I said no until he was 5 and realized I was actually hindering his identity and it had nothing to do with me. But I was just afraid of what the world was gonna think of him. But his confidence in his blackness since a youth taught me, like, girl, you better correct yourself because this child is showing you up.
Yeah.
And his dad is white?
His biological dad is black.
His biological dad is black. Okay.
We met in college. He's a football player, so my child not playing sports is irritating to everyone around except for me.
I got so many questions, man. Like, I feel like please, with love, we invite you back. Because I don't think, there's just so much.
I received that.
And I'm just an inquisitive person by nature. And so I could just, because I find what I always remember. One of the things that I find interesting about your story is the relationship to the blackness.
Right.
And how that's just been something that I've always lived with. I've never not had, and I'm not saying you haven't, it was just a different relationship to it. And I had to actually, all I grew up around was black folks. So much so to where I didn't like it. Like, I didn't have any positive black people I lived around. Everybody sold dope. Everybody was shooting. Everybody was robbing. This was my bubble of blacks. And if you wasn't doing any of that, you were struggling. So, and those people were struggling too, but to know that you like were growing up in this space where you were the only one, and then having to come around and learn aspects about it. We might not necessarily be too different now that I think about it as I'm saying it out loud.
It just looks different on the surface.
Yeah, because the challenge,
Yep.
I didn't start loving black until recently. Like, I thought it was just a gang of niggas just being niggas.
That's what I was gonna say. There's a lot of stereotypes
Yeah.
that like kind of dirty our perception of what black is. I think we're just getting like, I don't know if y'all see the frolicking, black people frolicking thing that's going on right now.
I have.
But I love
Started
that
with the
because
started with the dude.
We're pushing the narrative of what black is and looks like, which is just human.
I wish it was a dude. I think it started with, that was a gay dude who was frolicking, right?
It actually started like 2 years ago. Somebody frolicked on TikTok, but now it came back, and maybe
So
it might have been. I don't even know. Does
so-
that matter?
Yes.
Why?
Because I would have rather a straight man frolicked. Not to say that's more revolutionary to
The
me
masculinity piece
in my
or the
mind.
perceived
Yeah.
masculinity
So I'd rather, I think it's doper for perceived straight dude to go out and frolic and own that shit and be like, yeah, I frolic and I'll bust your goddamn head as I frolic. As opposed to a, hey, I'm frolicking. And then like, cause that's almost, I hate I said that, but I said it. But to me cause to me, that's the pattern disruptor.
That's the mold breaker.
That's the mold breaker, watching a black straight man. And it's one of the reasons why we talk and do the things that we do here is because of the pattern disruptor. We want there to be a new version of what Black men talk about, reflect on, that's outside of just these traditional norms.
There's a lot of, so I think there's like this collective kind of awakening within the Black community. Black women right now are healing themselves and elevating in a way and at a level I've never seen. It's a myriad of, COVID causing us to self-reflect versus what's going on in the world and realizing that joy is resistance. There is a need for Black men to not be threatened by that growth, but instead turn to their vulnerability piece. Because you gotta be really vulnerable to frolic. I say that because I've frolicked and it takes a little bit for you to release, but there's a reason why these people are smiling and joyous once they do it. It's because it's like the biggest fuck you to the world. Like, nah, I'm gonna frolic my Black ass. But you have to be really vulnerable to do that.
But wouldn't that be, so I give you an example. Do you know how vulnerable I have to be in order to take my hat off?
Really?
You would never know that.
Fair enough.
But I don't like the way that I look. So I put on my hat and I use this as a form of a hood to cover up my face. So a lot of times when I have to be vulnerable in that way, but I also gotta be self-aware enough and comfortable enough to let people know that is how I'm being vulnerable. Because vulnerability won't necessarily, it's the same with my smile. I hate when you see me smiling, that's me being vulnerable. Because normally, without me covering my face up or doing these kinds of things, nigga gotta get his teeth working on it. But that's a challenge that it's something that I struggle with, that I'm too mindful of, that I want to eventually just put my arms down, take my hat off, and just be.
Let me challenge that.
Okay.
Are you using a lens of vulnerability for it's what you're saying to me? Yeah, that is vulnerability with other people. The true vulnerability, and I think the true change, is when you can go in the mirror and actually smile at yourself without your hat and be like, man, I fucking love you. But look in your own eyes and say that. And it feels too stupid and terrible until you catch yourself without your hat and you're like, hey.
And that happens.
Feel it.
And that happens sometimes.
See? But that's the journey.
Yes, but I don't necessarily have to frolic.
But you haven't frolicked, so you can't even say that. You should frolic without your hat.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to pass. The crazy part is, actually, I envisioned me frolicking. I didn't like the way that felt, so I'm gonna politely.
I think you can do it. I think you can get out there and frolic, bro.
You can start with skipping.
You
When was the
start
last
with
time you
skipping.
skipped?
Really?
Skipping.
Yeah.
When's the last time you skipped?
I skipped yesterday.
Did you really?
Absolutely.
Why?
At the wine festival. Why? Because it was beautiful. There was Caribbean music playing.
And you started skipping.
Yeah, why not?
See, it's a different vibe coming from.
I skip in front of my son all the time too.
And you're a woman, you're supposed to skip.
Yeah, this is a different vibe.
Dudes can't skip.
I reject all of that.
Yeah, we do too.
We do too. We was just kidding.
I
But
reject it all.
it's still a fact. It's still no. What I'm saying is this.
You guys just haven't surrounded yourself with people who are willing to skip.
True. But what I'm saying is that, yeah, our friends are really fucked up. But here's the thing. If someone saw you skipping,
Yeah.
they look at that differently than if someone saw him skipping. At a festival.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like if your friends walked up to you and said, oh, she's skipping. She must be having a good time. If we walked up and saw him skipping at a festival, it'll be received way differently.
What's your thoughts on LGBTQ stuff? Since we're talking about frolicking.
I had to deal with a lot of anger after I moved here because nothing disappoints me more than to see people who have such an intimate relationship with oppression continue to further oppress our own folks and another group of folks. My thoughts on it are, why is it a topic of conversation? Outside of gaining true equity for them as well. Because as Black people, I don't know why we're talking about it, because we're talking about our brothers and sisters. Like, why do we have to, why? So I equate to kind of this. My family is very Irish. They believe truly that there was a level of synergy between the oppression they faced when they came over versus Black folks. Obviously, we know that's straight bullshit because of the obvious things, but also like Irish did step on the backs of Black folks because they were no longer the bottom rung in America. I think there is an element of that within the Black community and LGBTQ+. It's like, oh, we can actually push you further down and I can feel like I'm a little bit better than somebody. I don't like that.
Do you, so I'm glad we finally got somebody here that we can talk other than just me and this motherfucker. So,
Ouch.
no, because we think
Yeah.
there are a lot of similarities in our thought pattern. So there were always gay people when I was growing up.
Well, there's always been gay people, period.
And they were gay. Like they
Like,
were gay.
outwardly?
Outwardly
When you
gay.
were growing up?
Yeah.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. So, and so this is where I'm kind of going with the
Okay.
choir director. Always sugar in the tank.
Really?
Full tank.
Like we just went back so many
So
years.
well, he did. He did. I knew it was coming too. That's why I said it.
I don't be, see, but so how we going back? It's just words. I
No,
love.
that actually is one of the least offensive things.
Thank you. I don't want to be.
Really.
Okay. So
Stay tuned. It'll get worse.
yeah. So choir director, always moist.
See, just like that. It just happened so.
I don't mean these in, like this is just how we talk.
It's just
It's a say, yeah. Like we gonna create this for me to say homosexual. Oh,
Say gay.
I'd say homosexual at work. I could say gay. So I'm gonna say moist. No, I'm kidding, but gay. There were everybody had somebody gay in the family. I'm not saying that these things were necessarily celebrated, but they were accepted as just a part of, like in the Black community.
But have you ever asked those people if they felt
They
the
probably
same acceptance that you're saying?
they probably did not,
Yeah.
because they probably did not. But what I'm saying is, I think that there's been this narrative that's been thrown over top us meaning Black folks, about what we're doing and how things are taking place in the community. I'm not saying that there wasn't room to improve, but the narrative that we were whooping motherfuckers' asses and shit and kicking them down the street and not opening the door and doing all of this shit, not from my not from my standpoint. That doesn't mean that they weren't leaving those spaces and being treated poorly in other areas. But and I'm going somewhere with so that's number one. Number two, I think the reason why it's a topic of discussion for me is because, similar to a lot of people, I have a strong association with my gender. It's a large part of my identity. And I like that right now for today. And the idea that people come along and say things like gender doesn't matter, because my issue's never with an individual, even with a white motherfucker. I don't give a fuck about a singular white person. They are immaterial in the grand scheme of things. Same with a gay person or a trans person. An individual, my beef is never with an individual. So when I'm speaking to an individual about something, about their piece of it, it's more about the overarching theme of it, or at least what I feel is being heard. Kind of like what's going on with Dave Chappelle. So if gender didn't matter, it's like saying that race doesn't matter.
Who says gender doesn't matter?
These are thoughts and stories that I've heard about it's all fluid and it's about all binary and these things. And so
Well, that doesn't mean that it doesn't matter, though. I do think that gender it was originally defined in too much of a limited scope.
agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if I wore a dress, I'm still a dude.
Right. And like,
Why do I gotta be a girl?
You don't. Like my that's another thing, my son, like when his hair was long, like older gentlemen or women would come up and always be like, oh, I hope you guys are ladies are having a good day or something, like, and would just assume since his hair was long that he was a woman or a little girl. And when they would realize he was a boy, they would immediately like profusely apologize. And Isaiah's always just been like, I don't care.
Yeah, my son has locks too, and the same thing.
Like, I don't care.
But so there are two things. There is, there is understanding that, and recognizing that, that they exist. I mean, and they have the right to exist however they want to exist. Mm-hmm. But then there's also the understanding that you can feel like gender matters to you without it being without you dismissing their existence, right? And I think that's the disconnect.
Yeah.
So I could say, as a man, I'm a man. You know what I'm saying? Even if I wanted to wear a dress, I'm still a man.
Yep.
Right? But you could take that to mean that I don't recognize that you feel like a woman in a man's body, so therefore you don't see gender the same, or you think that gender is fluid. You could take offense to that. And for me, that's the disconnect. Why can't I believe what I believe? You exist how you exist. I'm not going to treat you any different because do your thing. I don't,
Maybe.
and vice versa.
Yeah, maybe fluid is not correct. I think maybe it's better to say gender is on like a spectrum, because like if you guys fully identify with being a man, then obviously you're on this end of the spectrum. There's other folks along the way.
But what am I? I'm identifying with the fact that I got a prostate. Mm-hmm. That's what I mean when I say, like, a man.
I guess we could just say that is your individual attachment to what a man is.
Your prostate.
Is that really what a man is? Because, like, for example, when a woman gets a hysterectomy and there's a lot of psychological healing that has to happen because a lot of women no longer, or they have to get their breasts removed, like whatever, like they don't feel like they're a woman anymore. Those aren't the defining factors of a woman, though.
So I think I'm saying I oversimplified it. My biology is how I show up, how I dress it up, is going to vary. But at the end of the day, I'm still a man.
But what if you were born biologically a man, but your spirit is not a man? Like, I'm just saying, like, not everybody is going to identify with their, parts the same way that you do. You just happen to be born the way you identify.
So Rachel Dolezal was born white, but she don't feel like she's a white woman.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that at all.
But hold on, no, that's not legit.
No, absolutely not. You can't self-identify race.
But you can self-identify gender?
You sure can.
How? Somebody told you that, Hannah. Somebody told you that you can do that. Somebody, right?
Someone gave you the audacity to say that the other thing can't exist.
No, I'm just saying, like, you know how long somebody said you can't do that? You know how long somebody said you cannot do that until they said you can?
You mean like having a black president? Because they told us for a long time that couldn't happen.
Yeah, but so I guess what I'm saying is hundreds of years went by when they were like, if you born a dude, you a dude.
If we go way, way, way back, like motherland history, cultural beliefs, deities and such really had no gender. And there were people in between on different ends of the spectrum and all over. So we changed the narrative.
So can Rachel identify as?
Fuck no. Fuck that
But
bitch.
why can't she though? But why can't she though? If I feel
White
like I'm
people wanna
born,
be oppressed so fucking bad.
Hannah, if I feel like I'm a girl, why can't Rachel feel like she black? Honestly. Let's remove what's socially acceptable, right? Let's remove what's socially acceptable for the sake of this example. If one is fluid, why can't the other be?
Because she has no melanin.
But so black is based on melanin?
To a certain extent, absolutely.
But if you a dude,
So now we going somewhere. So now we going somewhere. Race, so black is based on melanin.
Yeah.
So if you have, so let's say both your parents are black, but you don't have melanin.
You do.
Are you still black?
Yes.
Okay.
You do have melanin. Melanin obviously is a different level in all of us.
Does Rachel have melanin?
No, her parents are white.
Rachel has no melanin.
She got freckles.
Hold on. Rachel has no melanin. Rachel got melanin. She's just melanin deficient.
You mean in the absence of melanin?
Yes. Well, she's deficient highly in melanin.
She's European, so she doesn't have melanin.
Europeans don't have melanin?
No, they burn. They don't get brown, they just burn.
Okay.
So it's based on biology.
So being black is a biological thing, is what you're saying.
But
Thank you. That's a good
one. But if I'm a man and I'm saying that I'm a woman, I don't have ovaries.
No, being black is like your family tree, ancestry. Like, can you trace yourself back and find a black person? I don't gotta go that far. Rachel can't. Where they at? How are you black if there's not one black person in your family tree? How are you black if ancestor DNA comes back and
I'm gonna tell you why.
98%?
I'm gonna tell you why. Because for a black American,
I'm irritated with this conversation.
so this is a challenge. I'm sorry, we about to move on.
No, it's fine.
For a black American, I feel like a large part of what we feel makes a person black is their experience.
That would make me not black.
So I'm saying a large part.
No, that's a real thing.
So it's like,
I thought it was a real thing.
did you grow up like me? Mm-hmm. Did you struggle the way that I struggled? Did you persevere all of these things that I had to persevere? Like there's this commonality that we feel like, and it's one of the reasons why when there's a white boy in the hood who
mm-hmm.
grew up since birth and everybody cool with everybody, you see this motherfucker say nigga every now and then. He's kind of.
Y'all let him?
I don't
let him, but what I'm saying is I've
Why?
seen
Because
it.
he's white?
exist.
What if he identifies as black and he wants to use that word because he identifies as black?
What about Fat Joe?
Does he get to?
Puerto Rican, they're black.
But he don't have no. But see what I'm saying? It starts to get tricky.
No, it doesn't, because the family tree is still a family tree.
Fat Joe's family tree is black.
It's Puerto Rican.
It's got to be black. Where else did he come from?
Puerto Ricans are slaves.
How did the Caribbean get populated like on a ship?
I'm not articulating myself right, so which is leaving a large gap.
Well,
for
there's
y'all.
two things. there is a hereditary factor, and then there's also a biology factor. Like to be in, and it is tricky and it's dicey because there are always outliers to, like you always say, it's logic, it ain't math. There's always outliers to all of these things.
Yeah.
But by and large, it fits in this thing where it's biology and then there's family lineage. Those both things have to exist.
Yeah.
But the conversation was, though, if you have none of those, can you identify? And to the flip side of that, if you have none of the biological trait of the opposites of the gender, can you identify?
You can identify because that's a feeling.
Wait. So y'all understood when I said that the white girls were saying I'm blacker than you, and we all collectively understood how fucked up that was.
Absolutely.
100%.
Rachel,
100%.
can't believe that side of it and still let this woman run around saying she black.
So these are cultural, societal norms that we are responding to. If we look at the logical piece of it, race is man-made. That's not a biological thing. There isn't a Puerto Rican gene, right? There isn't a black gene or a white. All of that kind of shit is just man-made.
Okay, so yeah, actually that's important. And to come back to folks who maybe are identify in the trans community, their genes and their DNA do look different than yours or mine. As straight
They do?
people. Absolutely, that's how that works. The chromosomes and all that. I'm not a scientist, so please don't come for me, anybody.
Oh, you know they will.
But
Yeah,
The 7 people that we
it's
watch
cool,
our
'cause I actually
joint.
have 2 friends that are scientists, so I'm just going to deviate to them.
Right.
Okay.
Make sure you tag them because.
But right, like here, y'all, this is for you. But no, there is. We're all biologically created in some capacity individually. Just because it feels like something new to larger society and people don't want to sit and be uncomfortable with the fact that what they've thought for a long time isn't as black and white as they think, that is no demographics responsibility to fix. It's ours to be more open, to be more educated, to be more vulnerable and deal with our shit behind closed doors. So when we come out in this world, we're not hurting somebody.
Well, I think that's absolutely true, but I think that goes both ways. I think there is, like he said, if you feel like your gender sits here, like I'm a man, no matter what happens, I'm gonna put on, if I want to put on a dress, I'm still a dude in a dress, right? And then someone feels that theirs lies somewhere else, then they need to understand respect where mine lies, and vice versa, so we all can have a conversation about what's really important, which is the humanity of it. Like, I shouldn't treat you.
Do y'all feel like you're treated differently by folks who identify as LGBTQ+?
Oh, hell yeah.
What? What does that mean? What does that look like? Because I don't. So
Well,
this is a genuine question.
On an individual basis, this is the thing I was saying earlier. From an individual standpoint, I have never had an issue with an individual.
Okay.
Right.
So meeting a person and sharing our thoughts and ideas, that's going to be all love for the most part.
Right.
We might have challenges and tension,
Right.
but it's the overarching messaging of a lot of it. So like, to give you the prime example of like the Dave Chappelle thing, when he's saying what he's saying and people are forcing him to say things in a certain way, and then adding these other values on top of it, you know, transphobic, homophobic, all of this stuff. When that's what I'm speaking of more than anything. I don't have real issues with individuals on a one-on-one basis.
That's difficult. I mean, obviously, I think as a society and a country, we're terrible with communication. That goes without saying. I think that gets a little dicey because I've had this conversation, the foundational components of this conversation I've had several times with white folks about Black Lives Matter, and that the rhetorical all lives matter. Like, why you always got to talk about race? Because I'm going to talk about it till it's better. I think collectively that's also happening with the LGBTQ plus community. When it comes to Dave Chappelle, comedy in general, entertainment in general, I'm someone who, and anybody that spends more than a couple hours with me, like, I'm going to hold you so accountable for the word choices you use. That comes from growing up with a brother who is differently abled and having to fight for him. I think sometimes we're too quick to categorize someone with a platform being held accountable as an attack. But the truth is, we have evolved as people. We have become a lot more accepting to others outside of our pods and our cultures. And when that happens, you really can't go backwards to what was, because we're better. Maya Angelou said, when you know better, you do better. I think Dave Chappelle got the heat so hard because he does know better. And he knows better.
But what did he do? What did and this is what I mean.
Like, why do you have to make jokes about something that actually, like, that you just... It's like if a white dude was on stage and said things in a certain way that we all knew was unacceptable for him to speak about Black people like that, just because, like, if he made jokes about, like, any of the murders or anything on the street, like, anybody that's directly in harm's way, like, it's like, but don't joke about that because it's still so new and fresh. Like, it's still happening. We're still dealing with this. It's still harmful. And again, Dave Chappelle's platform is huge. That comes with a certain level of responsibility that I understand you might not always want to deal with. However, you either deal with it or you go do something else.
So what's the response to, and this is, so even your response on how you're saying it, this is where I feel the challenge gets from a higher level. Because on a one-to-one basis, there would be no issue. His personal relationships with the trans person, no issues, personal. Now he gets up on a platform and he speaks, and someone's saying, I want you to use different language. Even though you
just don't use that.
But
it's quite literally not that much different than white folks being told to not use the N-word.
Totally different.
No. It's
totally
it's
different.
It's like using the F word in reference to people who are gay. It's like using the R word in reference to people who are differently abled. Like,
those are,
don't do it.
So, but he didn't say F. He didn't say R. He didn't say.
But you know what I mean?
No, I do. But that.
Those, like,
so I feel like it's a protected group of people where nothing negative, nothing can be questioned in that space. And the moment you do, it's like saying, okay, I don't believe kids should be given hormone inhibitors or whatever at 12 years old. Let's say I said that and believed that as a Dave Chappelle, right? That's what he believes. He didn't say he hates anybody. He didn't say anything negative about anybody. He's just saying, hey, let's wait a little bit older. Let's wait till the kid gets a little bit older so that they can make a decision, a lifelong, so they can be a little bit more mature when they make the decision. So if him just saying that that's his opinion about it.
It wasn't that light though, was it?
No, but I'm just giving an example of like people in the past who have.
But you just said that in a very conversational way. That's very different than a comedy setting. Again, I think it's just we're not used to being held accountable and we don't like it.
And maybe a part of the accountability is introspection from everybody's side too, because absolutely. It's going to be hard. I don't know when I'm going to hurt your feelings, right?
And but that is such a healthy place to say that. But once you actually say that and mean it, I feel like you're already in a place of like, I'm going to try though. Like, I'm going to learn and I'm going to be better. And like, you bringing up his friend that was trans, I think she passed, right? I think his friend passed. It's really not that different than being the token Black girl. like, you fucked up by saying something bad, but you're like, but I have a friend who's, that doesn't negate you from being irresponsible with the things you say.
Did you watch his stand-up special?
Nah,
Okay.
I refuse.
Really?
I'm super annoying because I cut shit off.
What was it? What's
I
your?
just don't want to deal with it in 2022. I'm tired.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm tired. Like I'm no longer like, cool. If that's what you want to do and that's who you want to be, that's fine. I'm not gonna fuck with you no more. And I really don't want to have the conversation. I hope you find somebody who does, but it's not like to a certain extent, the whole element that we can change the world through conversation, I don't fully believe. I say that sitting here on this podcast, but what y'all are doing is very different because you're already open. You're already pushing yourselves individually and you're bringing other people along in that journey. I can't talk to someone who's severely homophobic or racist and really expect you to ever fucking listen to what I'm saying. It's not gonna happen. There's too big of a divide. You don't even see me as somebody worthy of respect, so why would you ever hear something I'm saying and be like, oh, actually, that's what I needed to hear my whole life in order to be a better person?
But here's the thing. I agree with you 100%. But I also think that that reality exists on the other side. Like
Probably
there
true.
are some
Yeah.
LGBT trans that you can't even have a conversation
Yeah.
with without it being
Yeah.
what you just said. So
Probably.
I think both, and I think to your point, there's a openness about a conversation and questions and things that either side don't understand that if everyone was open to a conversation, that we can have a conversation.
It'd be over.
And there'll be less of the immediacy to be offended because you kind of understand where they're coming from.
Younger generations are quite literally an example of that. They don't have half of these conversations because they don't need to. They've already just decided, like, either you're cool and we fuck with each other or you're not, but they don't have, like, my son and his friends, like these blackety black kids don't understand why anyone would ever have to come out to their parents. They don't understand why that has to be a production.
Right.
Because my child is like, I'm pretty sure I'm just going to bring home my first date and you're going to say yay or nay. Like, I'm not, that's it. Like, is this person a good person? Are you getting treated well? So they don't understand that because they're immediately so accepting, period, and more of like an energy and a vibe. I know not everyone, but collectively the younger generation really is.
I agree.
Yeah.
And so, like, I think we're just a generation of holding on to something that really doesn't fucking matter.
Well, and that's the piece. It's like going to a white person and telling them holding on to their whiteness doesn't matter. It does matter to them. And I think there's room to say, I respect the fact that you think you have this value system. And because I think it starts, at least what I've been trying to tell myself, our tagline is like, listen, help, heal, repeat. It don't say talk, help, heal. Listen first. So a lot of the people that I feel that are talking want to be listened to and heard. And what we end up doing sometimes is waiting for opportunities to give our spiel and about what we think and why we think it. And when the other person is doing the exact same, there's no, nothing is actually even being shared. It's like just, there's no exchange. It's just bouncing.
Like, comprehension is a part of listening.
It is.
Right.
And just because you say something doesn't mean that that's translating in a way that I get. I need like 10 more questions probably. And you might, as the person sitting down, start getting frustrated
without realizing it's not a, it's not an
not an
attack.
offense.
It's just help me.
I'm trying to really comprehend like like certain things. It's like it's landing in there, like the dots aren't connected. I got the shit in my head, but the thread hasn't connected all of the dots yet. So now it's data. It's nothing really that I can do with it because the shit just isn't connecting in my dome.
Yeah, and the issue is a lot of times that, you know, those are the sort of, like, we break it down to the individual exchanges we can gain understanding and all, and listen and heal and all that. But then there's a larger societal thing that sort of wants to give a narrative that there's a right and there's a wrong and there's a discourse. But it's really not a discourse. It's just that narrative exists so that media can make money off the discourse. Racism, and I mean race and the fight there and all of those things exist in media to create discourse, to create views. If we get down to the exchange part of it and the understanding, and we can have these levels of conversation, as uncomfortable and as tense as they can be, there's understanding that's gained from it.
Because I truly want to understand that piece of somebody's existence. Like,
And understand meaning not to judge it in my own sort of like running through my own judging thing, but just to say, I get what you're saying. You know, even if I don't agree, I get it.
I also think that there might be too much pressure on understanding. Do I have to fully understand one to respect and celebrate their existence? Or can I just be proud of you for being, for finding your essence and being proud of that and putting it out into the world?
So I agree, kinda. I don't think you get to know who the fuck Hanna is without knowing Hanna's story. I think
that is true.
I think so. You don't necessarily, you're not opening up and sharing under the condition that people understand. You open up because that's a part of just who you are at that time. And so somebody comes along and says, hey, would you like to be on our podcast? Yeah, sure. So I go back and I start doing all of this shit and listening to all of this stuff. And I'm like, this is a really powerful sister. I don't necessarily think I would have gotten that same perspective just looking at pieces of who you are. So I started with an endeavor to understand more about you. Do I get it all? Absolutely not. But through that process, it certainly opened me up, and I have developed a much stronger appreciation for who you are.
Right.
I wish we could do that with everybody, because that right there is like
that's the key.
The intentionality. Yeah, like you said, like sure you could think you know me based on what you look like, see real quick.
Right. Yeah.
But
Right, and even if I don't agree, even if I don't like, that ain't for me. But I still get it.
We expect agreement too much.
Way too much. It's overrated. Agreeing is overrated.
Yeah. It's boring.
Yeah.
Because what I think understanding is more important. Like there's a difference. A lot of times when we're saying we don't agree, we're saying we don't understand. Ooh. That's really what we're saying.
Or we don't want to understand.
We don't, there's not a connection. So it's easier to not agree with a motherfucker. Right. It's a lot of work to understand.
Yeah.
You gotta put I don't have to have any emotional investment in that motherfucking laptop being silver. It's silver.
Period.
Right.
Period.
Right. Right.
But what if I saw blue?
Then we live in a world now where I'd have to respect your. No, I'm fucking with you.
But again, there's another, y'all know that dress that was like black and blue or something?
Yeah.
Gold or whatever, yeah.
But so that's different. But
why? It goes back to what I said, we're all wired a little differently inside. But if you were saying it's blue, now I understand. Now I understand. Yeah. Right. I'm not gonna disagree with you. You should, because it's definitely silver.
But I understand why you think that motherfucker's blue.
Right.
I'm not even gonna say I disagree with you at that point.
Right.
I understand why you think it's blue. Right. I'm not gonna walk around and be saying this bitch is crazy. I disagree. Like no.
She called this laptop blue.
She called this laptop blue. I disagree with that.
Right, I'm a tweet
vehemently. Like no.
Oh, God.
She's got a glitch in the matrix and she thinks that motherfucker's blue. So
glitch in the matrix.
Got a glitch.
You used a James Baldwin quote.
I love James.
And that quote was, paraphrasing,
Of course.
James Shelby rendition. Not everything that you focus on can be changed, but nothing can be changed unless you focus on it, or something along those lines. I feel like so much of your life and how you move, I like telling people about themselves. I don't know if you know that. So I'll digest you, all the things that I see, and then I just share what I feel about like how you show up. I am so thankful that you are out there and that people get to see you. They might not necessarily connect with the why and, you know, your story and all of that, but you just, the world is a much better place because you're in it. And I just wanted to say thank you for looking at your shit and not knowing what can change, but having the courage to just look at it all, and coming on here and sharing and all of that, man. It means a lot to us, to me personally, and I just wanted to say thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Inspirational.
Yeah.
Inspirational, definitely.
I mean, I'll take the validation because, one, I know the work I put in to get where I am today, but I also understand I'm not special. Like, everybody can do it. It just looks scary.
Yeah.
It's really not that scary on the inside.
I hear that. It just looks scary.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, we said the bodies in the closet.
Pus. I remember looking back at this one, said, pus is coming out. Like, geez. How do you feel?
Good.
Feel good?
Mm-hmm.
You coming back?
Absolutely.
We respected you.
Yeah. We
Absolutely.
were cool.
I mean, I know you were gonna demand
He
it,
was
but
cool because he's always, he can.
there's so many things that I wanted to talk about.
That's
So
fair.
you got to come back.
I mean, I still got some doozies that'll make y'all roll your heads like, what, you went through what?
Cause we didn't, like, you were just dropping them, and it was just like,
Yeah.
I couldn't run behind you fast enough.
Exactly.
I mean, it's only funny because, like, I don't know anything else. So it's interesting when I do tell people my story, they're like,
Wait, what?
what? I'm like, oh, that's not,
Yeah.
okay, that's
Right.
just me.
That's wild. That's wild. You good?
Yeah.
You still processing?
Mm-hmm. Where can people find you?
All over Instagram, Sippin' Hanna.
Sippin' Hanna.
Sippin' Hanna. SIPPIN.
SIPPIN, H on the end of my name. Don't try me.
You
Hanna
come
with
for
an
'em?
H.
Hanna with an H. 2 N's,
Yep.
2 A's.
When this airs, it will be your birthday.
So y'all can cash at me.
So happy birthday
Birthday for the day, on the day.
on the day.
Yep.
Let me get your birthday.
See what I'm saying?
Today is Hannah's birthday. We want to
what I'm
say
saying?
that we really
You encouraging this.
appreciate you.
Come on.
No, I'm not
You
encouraging
turn 38 and you know just what to do. Everybody say, turn it up.
this. No, man.
Turn it up.
These kind of relationships that get disturbed when we don't take the time to know what it is to sing, to know how to get close to the mic again, or to get some. Singing doesn't make it happen, or maybe you're a keyboardist and you know enough about keyboarding to know that